You've been saying it your whole life, but no one ever told you what it really means. The Lord's Prayer isn't just a prayer. It's a spiritual technology, a map, a code, a doorway back to the kingdom within you. When Jesus said, "Pray like this," he wasn't teaching repetition. He was giving us a way to remember who we are. Our Father, not my Father, our. The moment you say it, the illusion of separation starts to fade. You're not alone. You're part of something infinite, the divine family that's been calling you home. Who art in heaven? Heaven isn't up there. It's in here. It's the untouched space within you that still remembers God. Every breath, every heartbeat is proof that heaven is already speaking through you. Hallowed be thy name. The name wasn't meant to be whispered in fear. It was meant to be breathed. Yod Hivavi, the rhythm of your own inhale and exhale, the forgotten language of creation itself. Each line of this prayer is not a request. It's an activation. Thy kingdom come isn't waiting for heaven to descend. It's heaven awakening through you. You are the vessel. You are the bridge. The kingdom comes when you remember. If these words stir something inside you, that's not coincidence. That's memory. You're not just watching another video. You're hearing your soul say, "I'm waking up." So breathe, remember, and if you feel the call, subscribe to this channel. Not just to follow, but to walk this path together, to decode the hidden truths of Scripture, and to awaken the kingdom within. You've been saying it your whole life, but no one ever told you what it truly does. The Lord's Prayer isn't just a prayer. It's a spiritual technology, a living map, a code written not to lead you to heaven after you die, but to awaken the kingdom already within you. When Jesus said, "Pray like this," he wasn't handing us a script to memorize. He was giving us a frequency to remember, a way to come back to who we really are. And once you see what these words mean, you'll never say them the same way again. If you've ever felt something stir inside you when you heard them, goosebumps, wonder, a strange sense of home, that's not curiosity. That's memory. You're remembering where you came from. So let's begin, not with religion, not with doctrine, but with the first breath of the prayer itself. Our Father, who art in heaven. It's a line you've said countless times, maybe without realizing its power. It's not an introduction, it's an activation. That first word, our, changes everything. Not my Father, but our Father. The moment you say it, the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. You stop praying as an isolated being reaching toward a distant God, and you start praying as part of something vast and luminous. You join a hidden communion, a family of souls all reaching for the same light. In that single word, the ego bows, the soul rises, and you remember, you were never alone. You never will be. Then comes the next word, Father. But Jesus didn't speak English. He used the Aramaic word abwan, a word layered with meaning. Father, mother, source, womb, breath of life. One sacred sound holding the balance of divine masculine and feminine, the giver and the sustainer, the spark and the breath intertwined. When Jesus said abwan, he wasn't picturing a man in the clouds. He was calling upon the beloved source from whom all life flows. He was saying, you didn't begin in shame. You weren't born from sin. You began in divine intention, in intelligence, in breath. You're not an orphan clawing your way back to worthiness. You're a spark from the source, a child of the infinite already held in love. Religion made this prayer a performance, but Jesus made it a return. And when he said, "Who art in heaven?" he wasn't talking about a place above the clouds. He said, the kingdom of God is within you. Heaven isn't a destination, it's a dimension. It's the untouched space inside you that still remembers God, the inner garden beneath the noise, the sacred place that never fell. So when you say, Our Father, who art in heaven, you're not reaching out to someone far away. You're calling back the part of you that never left the garden, the part that never stopped being holy. This line isn't a greeting, it's a remembering. You're not begging a God in the sky to hear you. You're awakening the God breath already inside you. You're not a sinner begging for mercy. You're a soul remembering its lineage. This is Jesus taking your hand, leading you back home, not through guilt or fear, but through the memory of divine origin. So next time you whisper that line, don't say it from your throat. Say it from your soul. Say it like someone who remembers. Heaven isn't later. It isn't elsewhere. It's been inside you all along, waiting for you to return. And then the prayer shifts. Hallowed be thy name. Most hear it as a phrase of reverence, poetic but distant. Yet Jesus wasn't being poetic. He was revealing a frequency. He wasn't saying, respect God's name. He was saying, let the vibration of God's presence awaken in you again. Because the name of God was never a word. It was breath itself. In Hebrew, it was 4 letters. Yod, He, Vav, He. Not a sound to be spoken, but a breath to be felt. The high priests never uttered it aloud, not because it was forbidden, but because it couldn't be spoken, only breathed. It was the pulse behind creation, the whisper before language, the exhale that birthed the stars. Every living being has been saying that name since their first breath. Yod, inhale. He, exhale. Vav, inhale. He, exhale. Every newborn cry, every wind through the trees, every sigh of life is the sound of that name moving through creation. That's how close God is, closer than your own thoughts, nearer than your own pulse. Before you ever spoke a word, God's breath filled your lungs. You were carved from that breath. So when Jesus said, "Hallowed be thy name," he meant, let that sacred breath awaken in you again. It wasn't about ritual or fear, it was about remembrance. He came to return the name to your lungs, to your ordinary life, to your very being. To hallow, the name is not passive reverence. It's a spiritual rebellion against forgetfulness. It's the moment you stop talking about God and start embodying Him. Every inhale is His coming in. Every exhale is your soul remembering its source. You don't speak the name, you become it. That's why empty prayers feel hollow, because words without breath are shells without spirit. This line restores that spirit. It clears the static, retunes your frequency back to the source. It reminds you that you were made in the vibration of divine breath, and that vibration still hums in you. When you breathe with awareness, heaven stirs. When you speak with remembrance, creation responds. This is the hidden power of the prayer. It's not a ritual, but a tuning fork for the soul. Jesus didn't give us poetry to recite. He gave us a technology to awaken. Our Father, who art in heaven, reconnects you. Hallowed be thy name, realigns you. Each word, each breath, brings heaven closer, not descending from the sky, but rising from within. So breathe. Remember. Say the prayer again, but this time, feel it, not as something ancient and distant, but as something alive, written in your very breath since the beginning of time. And when you do, you'll realize heaven was never far. It was here all along, in the silence between breaths, in the name that has always been written inside you. It's a spiritual rebellion, a reawakening of the divine name within you. It's a call to remember what was stolen, to return to what you've carried in your lungs since your first breath. So when you whisper this line, don't just say it like a robot. Feel it. Pause. Let your own breath become the temple. You see, Jesus wasn't trying to give you a prayer to memorize. He was trying to reignite the original connection. He wasn't pointing up, he was pointing in. The name is not a sound on your lips. It's a light in your spine, a breath in your belly, a memory in your soul that whispers. You come from the same source. You are still connected. You were made in the name, breathed into being by that vibration. And every time you forget who you are, this line calls you back. Let it not only be sacred in heaven, let it be sacred in you. You want to know why your prayers have felt empty? Why you've said the words but felt no presence? It's because the words were never meant to be spoken without breath, without remembrance, without alignment. This line retunes you. It brings your human frequency back in a harmony with the source. That is the hidden power of this prayer. Jesus didn't just teach words. He gave a spiritual tuning fork, a resonance for the soul. Each line vibrates with divine frequency, and this line, "Hallowed be thy name," clears the static. It purifies the channel. It prepares you for what comes next. Because when you re-honor the name, you reawaken the relationship. The kingdom starts to rise inside you again. Now you know, the name was never outside you. It was encoded into your very breath, waiting for the moment you'd remember. But if the name was hidden in the breath, what else did Jesus hide in plain sight? The next line of the prayer carries the most dangerous phrase ever spoken, one that terrified empires, one the church tried to tame because it didn't just reveal God's will, it revealed yours. And if you ever truly understood it, you wouldn't just say it, you'd unleash it. Ready? Let's enter the next code. Thy kingdom come. You've said it hundreds, maybe thousands of times, but have you ever stopped to ask, where is this kingdom? What is it? Why did Jesus say to call it forth instead of waiting to enter it? This line isn't about dying and floating away to a golden world beyond the clouds. It's not about harps, gates, or some eternal afterparty. This line is the heartbeat of Jesus' entire teaching, the thunder beneath every word he spoke. Because the kingdom isn't up there. It's not later. It's here. It's now. The kingdom of God is within you. Not in temples, not in churches, not in rituals or robes. It's already coded into your being. And this line, thy kingdom come, is the activation command. When you speak it, you're not begging heaven to intervene. You're summoning the divine blueprint back into your body, your breath, your choices, your day. It's a sacred revolt against illusion, a remembering of what's real. Because the world we live in, the chaos, the corruption, the endless distractions, is not the kingdom. It's the counterfeit, the false empire that rose when we forgot who we were. When Jesus spoke this line, he wasn't addressing helpless sinners. He was awakening kings and queens in exile, those who'd forgotten their crown. This line is not a plea. It's a declaration. It's the return of divine order. It's the true self standing inside the false self and saying, no more sleep, no more exile. The kingdom is coming through me. That's how it works. It doesn't fall from the sky. It rises through the awakened, through the soul that says, I'm done waiting. Let heaven break in right here, right now. When you say, thy kingdom come, you're not just calling for a new world. You're agreeing to become the vessel through which it arrives. That's why this line frightened religious powers, because it doesn't just speak of God's dominion. It announces your divine assignment. You are the landing pad, the bridge between what is and what is meant to be, the portal through which heaven touches earth. And the moment you mean this line, not recite it, but let it burn into your bones, the illusions around you begin to tremble. The old empire cannot survive once the kingdom starts moving through you. You'll feel the resistance. People may call you extreme, deluded, or dangerous, but that's how you know it's working. That's how you know you were born to bring the kingdom. Not just Jesus, not just prophets or saints. You. And here's the secret no one told you. The kingdom doesn't come by force. It comes through alignment. When your inner world reflects heaven, peace, clarity, truth, divine will, your outer world reshapes itself to match. Heaven is not a location. It's a frequency, a mirror, a state of resonance. You don't enter it, you become it. And when you do, everything shifts. Not always instantly, not always gently, but with every breath aligned to that kingdom, you begin to walk as a living Eden, proof that the divine never left. It lives in you. Notice something else. The prayer doesn't say, let the kingdom come to me. It simply says, thy kingdom come, because it was never about something arriving from outside. It was about releasing what was already inside. And that truth makes you dangerous to the old world. You're not here to escape Earth. You're here to restore it. If you're still here, it means the code is alive in you. Most scroll past, but you stayed. Not because you're curious, but because you remember. You felt it for years, the cracks in the illusion, the ache for something more, the silent echo calling you home. This moment is your signal. So pause, breathe, let this be sacred. And if this awakens something in you, don't just keep it to yourself. Mark it, declare it. Let your life say, I am waking up. Because this is not a message, it's a mirror. Not new knowledge, but ancient memory surfacing. You are not here to wait for heaven. You are here to bring it. Every choice, every breath, every act of love is the kingdom coming through you. And when you mean those words, thy kingdom come, the false world trembles because one more soul has remembered who they are, and heaven begins to rise again from within the human heart. So people gave up their power, accepting suffering as God's mysterious plan, tragedy, his will, pain, his will, even oppression, somehow his will. But that was never what Jesus meant. He wasn't teaching blind submission. He was teaching sacred alignment. The Aramaic word he used wasn't about control or fate. It was shana, a word that means sacred desire, divine impulse, the creative longing of God to express and become. So what if thy will be done was never meant to make you small, but to awaken the divine desire already inside you? It's not about getting out of the way. It's about becoming the way, allowing the intention of God to move through you, shape you, and express itself through your hands, your voice, your choices. Then comes the most misunderstood line of the entire prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. Most people hear that and think of clouds, golden gates, harps, and angels, but Jesus wasn't talking about a place you go when you die. He was describing a realm you bring forth while you live. To him, heaven wasn't a location. It was a state of being, a condition of soul alignment, the complete coherence between the inner and the outer. When he said, on earth as it is in heaven, he was handing us a blueprint. What is true in the invisible must become true in the visible. What is whole in the spirit must become whole in the body. What is divine in the heavens must be born through our words, our relationships, our daily breath. He wasn't praying for escape. He was praying for embodiment. And that flips everything upside down. You weren't born to flee the world or wait for rescue. You were born to transfigure it, to make earth reflect heaven, to become a walking temple where the sacred touches down. You are the landing site. And if you still believe heaven is only for later, some distant someday, then religion succeeded in blinding you to your purpose. Because here's the truth they never told you. Heaven is a frequency, a dimension, not there, but here, visible only to those who carry its vibration. And hell? Hell is disconnection. It's forgetting who you are. It's living with no reflection of the divine in your own eyes. You don't go to heaven or hell. You emanate one or the other based on what you align with. So what is the will of God? It's that the divine be made visible through flesh, that eternity shine through the temporary, that you become the meeting place where the unseen becomes seen. That's not passive. That's priestly. Thy will be done is a summons to remember, to rise, to restore what was split. Because if earth is ever to look like heaven, then your life must become a temple. And if heaven is already within you, if the kingdom is no longer a far-off promise, then you're not waiting for something to arrive. You're being called to become it. But that kind of becoming requires fuel, hidden nourishment, and daily initiation. That's why the next line, "Give us this day our daily bread," is not about bakeries or grain. It's about forgotten manna, the sustenance that feeds divine memory. Once you taste it, you'll never be able to feed on the world's lies again. They told us this line was about survival, as if Jesus, the embodiment of divine abundance, was teaching us to beg for crumbs. But something far deeper is encoded here. The real ones know this line is a portal, a riddle hiding something ancient and mystical, not about physical bread, but the sustenance that feeds the inner man, the real you, the eternal one who doesn't live on food but on remembrance. The word translated as daily in Greek isn't ordinary. It's epiousios, a strange term meaning super essential, beyond the physical. It refers not to bread for today, but to the bread of the age to come, nourishment from another realm. Jesus wasn't asking for God to feed the body. He was teaching you to receive the frequency of heaven, moment by moment. In the old temple, the priests kept the showbread, also called the bread of presence. 12 loaves, one for each tribe, placed continually before the face of God, never allowed to go stale. It wasn't mere food. It was a reminder that God's presence is the true provision, that to forget him is to starve. Jesus knew this symbol deeply, and when he said, "Give us this day our daily bread," he was activating that memory. He was saying, every morning, return to presence. Return to what's real. Don't just eat, commune. Don't just survive, remember. Prayer isn't begging. It's tuning, aligning to what truly nourishes the soul. And here's the secret that flips it all. You are not only meant to receive the bread, you are called to become it. I am the bread of life, Jesus said. He wasn't pointing to food. He was pointing to a frequency, a way of being so whole, so radiant in God that your very presence becomes nourishment to those around you. The world isn't starving for food. It's starving for light, for clarity, for wholeness. And you, yes, you who are awakening, are the answer hidden in plain sight. So when you pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," you're not asking for more. You're asking to remember what you already carry. You're asking to become the kind of being who walks as bread, a living communion, a daily offering, one who is not merely fed but feeding. But many can't yet receive this bread. They stay hungry no matter how much they pray, because something ancient blocks the flow, an old weight, an unpaid debt, an unhealed wound. Until that code is unlocked, even sacred bread will rot in your hands. And that's why the next line comes like lightning. Forgive us our debts, not just a plea for mercy, but a spiritual law. Those who misunderstand it remain bound for lifetimes. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors isn't a moral lesson. It's a mystical reversal of gravity itself. Because when you hold on to their debt, you hold on to your own. The thing no pulpit dared to say aloud. God isn't the one keeping score. You are. Every grudge is a chain. Every resentment is a closed gate. Every story where you keep replaying your pain binds your soul to the same prison. To forgive is not to forget. It's to stop bleeding for a wound you didn't cause. It's stepping out of the courtroom in your mind, where your ego keeps demanding justice that will never bring peace. Judgment is a loop. Forgiveness is the only exit. Debts, in the ancient tongue, meant unpaid energies, spiritual contracts still open, pulling at your soul. And the secret is this: you can't be released from what you still enforce on others. That's why Jesus bound the two together. Forgive us as we forgive. It's a mirror, a law of reflection. Release them, not because they deserve it, but because you were never meant to carry their shadow. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's liberation. It's resurrection. The moment you forgive, you unbind yourself. You open your vault. You shift timelines. Heaven cannot flow through clenched fists. And sometimes, the one you must forgive is the one staring back in a mirror. Forgive yourself. Release the old story. Because the next breath of the prayer, the one that follows forgiveness, will take you straight through the fire, and you can't pass through if you're still chained to what hurt you. Every story where you still see yourself as the victim keeps your soul kneeling before the same locked door. To forgive is not to forget, and it's not pretending it didn't hurt. It's choosing to stop bleeding for a wound you didn't cause. It's walking out of the courtroom in your mind, where your ego keeps replaying the same trial, expecting a verdict that will somehow fix your soul, but it never does. Judgment is a loop, and forgiveness is the only exit. Now let's decode what debts actually means. In the ancient tongue, it's koba or choba, not financial dues, but spiritual ones. Unpaid energies, unresolved contracts still pulling at your soul like invisible cords. Some are from last year, some from childhood, and some are echoes of pain carried from lifetimes ago. And here's the mystery. You can't be released from what you're still enforcing on someone else. That's why Jesus didn't separate the two phrases, forgive us as we forgive. He was showing us a law, a mirror, a divine pattern. The way out is through release. Let them go, not because they've earned your forgiveness, but because you were never meant to be chained to their shadow. Forgiveness isn't just love, it's liberation. It's resurrection. And the moment you extend it, you unbind yourself, you open the vault of your soul, you shift timelines. Because heaven cannot flow through clenched fists. And then comes the real test. What if the person you most need to forgive is the one staring back at you in the mirror? But forgiveness isn't the end. It's the cleansing before the fire, the purging that must happen before you face what's next, the confrontation with evil itself. Not the Hollywood caricature of horns and darkness, but the evil that hides in plain sight, the one that tempts you with shortcuts, whispers with your own voice, and wears the mask of light. The next line is the most dangerous in the entire prayer. Lead us not into temptation. And once you see what it really means, you'll never look at desire or darkness the same way again. You were taught this was about weakness, about resisting sin, about saying no to chocolate cake or closing the laptop before clicking on something dark. But this line was never about avoiding bad behavior. It's about surviving false light. Because the real temptation isn't in the shadows, it's in the brilliance that blinds. In the original Greek, the word isn't about lust or desire. It's pyrasmos, meaning a test, a proving, a trial by fire. Jesus wasn't asking God to spare him from struggle. He was asking for clarity, to walk through the fire without mistaking the flame for home. Temptation doesn't come as obvious evil. It comes as the shortcut, the easy way out, the voice that says, "You've suffered enough. You deserve this crown." In the desert, the enemy offered Jesus the kingdoms of the world, glory, followers, instant power, and he refused. Not because those kingdoms were evil, but because the timing was wrong. Because a crown without a cross is always counterfeit. Temptation isn't about pleasure. It's about premature power, the offer to take the thing your soul longs for before you've become the kind of person who can carry it. So lead us not into temptation isn't begging to be spared from hardship. It's a declaration. God, don't let me confuse my ego for my destiny. Don't let me trade the eternal for the immediate. Let the fire refine me, but don't let me fall asleep in it. Because fire is sacred only when you walk through it. Stay too long, and it consumes you. Flee too soon, and the gold inside you remains hidden. This line isn't permission to escape. It's permission to endure. It's a vow of strength. I will not build a throne on compromise. I will not wear a crown made of shadow. The real danger of temptation isn't in failing it. It's in building your life on the parts of you that it exposes. Many have done it. They sit on false thrones, crowned by wounds, ruled by ambition disguised as purpose. And they don't even know it. But you're being called to something higher. Not the avoidance of failure, but the refusal to betray the divine seed inside you. You've been tested before. You may still be. But here's the truth. The test only becomes a curse when you let it define you. See it for what it is, a fire meant to burn away what cannot stay, and you'll emerge with clean hands and a clear crown. And now, the final mystery, the last line of the Lord's Prayer, the ultimate code. Deliver us from evil. This is where most people stop, close their eyes, say amen, and walk away, thinking it's about safety from danger. But this line isn't a plea for protection. It's a summons for transformation. Because evil isn't just violence, blood, or demonic figures. In the ancient language, the word paneros means the hurtful one, the toil bringer, the force that crushes the soul and keeps you enslaved to cycles of suffering. Evil is the thing that traps you in loops of fear, shame, and self-punishment so deep you start believing that's just who you are. It's not out there. It's the wound inside, the whisper that says, You're not worthy. You'll always be stuck. You are what happened to you. It's the parasite that feeds on your pain and uses your own voice to keep you small. So when Jesus said, "Deliver us from evil," he wasn't teaching fear. He was teaching recognition. Deliverance is not escape, it's awakening. It's the ripping away of the false self that pain built, the unmasking of the parasite that wears your face. Deliver us is not passive. It's a violent reclamation of your soul. It's the moment you stand up inside yourself and say, "I remember who I am. I reject the name that pain gave me. I renounce the identity that trauma built for me. I silence the voice that speaks in the tone of shame." This is exorcism, not from demons with red eyes, but from inherited identities, from the mother wound, the father's absence, the religious guilt, the fear of being too much or too chosen. Evil doesn't want your body. It wants your narrative. It wants to convince you that you're broken, unworthy, too far gone to rise. It wants you to hide your light, dim your truth, and stay in the familiar cage that slowly kills your spirit. But you were not born to blend in with bondage. You were born to carry fire, to become the kind of human that darkness cannot hold. Deliver us from evil isn't a request for escape. It's a call for awakening. It's the summoning of your original self, the one before the fall, before the wounds, before the lies. Because the greatest weapon of evil isn't what it does. It's who it convinces you that you are. And this line breaks that spell. You are not your trauma. You are not your shame. You are not the echo of generations that came before. You are the one who came to end them. You are the answer your bloodline prayed for. And this line, spoken with breath, with memory, with alignment, doesn't just free you. It rewrites everything. So when you say, "Deliver us from evil," don't whisper it in fear. Declare it in remembrance. Let it be your battle cry, your awakening call. Because this prayer, this ancient code, was never meant to make you small or safe. It was meant to make you free. This isn't just a prayer. It's the architecture of liberation. Every line takes you deeper, from remembrance to alignment, from alignment to embodiment, from embodiment to release, from release to rebirth. And if you've made it this far, it means the code is alive in you. You didn't stumble into this. Something in you was ready to remember. So breathe. Feel the fire in your chest. You're not asking to be delivered. You're stepping into deliverance. The world may tremble. The old patterns may crack. But this is what you were born for. You are not begging heaven to intervene. Heaven is rising inside you. And with that final line, the cycle completes. Forgiveness clears the heart. Temptation refines the will. And deliverance restores the soul. This is not the end. It's the beginning of who you truly are.